I'd like to welcome you all to this week's report. It's been a great week of fishing here with good offshore and inshore fishing happening across Southern California Bight. And we've got some good weather in the forecast for the weekend. It's been pretty good all week, except Saturday we got kind of caught off guard by some southeast wind in the morning along the beach. Made it tough for guys like me who fished the coast, but made it for pretty nice offshore fishing for the guys that made it past that wind. Nothing big in the forecast, just your normal afternoon west wind through the weekend, not too heavy, 10, 12 knots looks like. Let's get to the northern Channel Islands or out past Clemente. So without further ado, let's go to the map. There's enough stuff happening inshore this week that I'm going to just go back to my normal forecast. We'll start off by heading up to the Channel Islands. The fishing up that way is pretty good, summertime fishing. They're catching bass, rockfish, a few yellows, a few sea bass, a few halibut. It's nothing like it was when it's wide open sea bass, but there's good summertime fishing over there. The water's a little colder. My friend Scott Summerskill was up there and he reported colder water, but the bass were biting through it, eating hard baits and stuff like that. Yeah, should be a nice weekend to go out there, catch a few fish, just have a fun day. Heading down the line, I'm gonna stay along the coast this week and then work my way out because we got a lot of stuff that's happening in between the mainland and Catalina. I fished PV on Saturday, and like I said, there was quite a bit of wind out there out of the south. It was actually really strong at times, probably gusting 15 plus, which kind of limited my fishing options. I had to hide around Rocky Point into Santa Monica Bay side, and nice, good water up there, good current. Bass were not super cooperative in the morning, but they usually aren't up there at that time of day. And the amount of wind made it kind of tough to fish some of the spots I wanted to fish in a productive manner. It's wind's blowing up, or the current's going uphill, and the wind's coming out of the south. You're blasting through zones at Mach 9, so it's you might only get 3 or 4 casts on a good spot or a good patch of kelp. But that being said, those casts did result in bites. Matt got a nice fish. We got a few other good sized ones. I was shooting photos for an article for PCS, so that'll be out not the next issue, but the following one, with some tips on how to go about fishing at PV and by extension other kelp beds along the coast. My buddy Chris Oakes fished Isers on Saturday. Said it was horrible due to the wind. Haven't really heard a whole lot else as far as guys fishing the coast other than the guys fishing Dorado. And I mean, these guys are catching these Dorado right off the shelf. So that the Redondo Special half-day boat caught one the other day. And if you know where that boat is, it's pretty far from anything offshore. So the fact that they're getting fish really says something. Let's talk about those Dorado for a bit. As you can see, the huge influx of fish really started biting this week. There was boats that had limits, 10 fish limits for 20 guys, stuff like that on Tuesday. These things, they've been around for a week or two now, and they just decided to start biting suddenly. And the area where they're biting, it's not even on kelp beds. They're just out in open water. It's starting to resemble the 150 from the big yellowtail days of 2015. So I don't know how long these things are going to stay around. I'm not even sure where they came from. They don't seem like fish that came from down south because they're up in Long Beach more than they're in San Diego. They might have come from the west, but who really knows? Just one more weird thing to add to the list of incredibly weird things we've seen since that 2015 El Nino. If you're heading out on your own boat to fish for Dorado, I would, they don't seem to be fleet shy. So if you want to go into the gangbang, go right ahead. Maybe drift a sardine or get anchovies. What I would do is I would just drive around looking for breezers and small puddling areas of Dorado, which are all over the place. I mean, they're from above Catalina to below the Mexican border. You just need to find them. And the best way to do that is just to drive around and glass around in likely looking areas. You get clean water, you get some birds, you get some stuff like that. They're a lot harder to spot than the tuna are. They're not foaming, they do foam a bit, but I mean the foaming is from sub 10 pound fish rather than 100 pounders, so it's a little harder to see. So if you're driving around like a maniac, trolling your mat back, you're probably not going to see them, but that's a bit of a joke. But I'd cruise along slowly, stop and glass every 3 or 4 miles, glass 360 around the boat, look for them, and once you find them, it sounds like right now they'll bite pretty good and stick with the boat. So probably want to bring some chum and some smaller hooks and light line and just go have a fun day catching those things. Fishing's been so good for him that my friend Bobby Martinez actually gave the bluefin tuna a break. Him and his wife went out and caught limit some the other day. So good for them. Fishing at Cat and Clemente, the bass fishing is really good at both islands. There's yellowtail at Clemente biting. I know that the Thunderbird and I think the Fury, they've been fishing the islands in the morning, catching much yellows on the front side and big calicos, and then peeling off looking for bluefin and Dorado. Having some good fishing doing that. In the area between the islands, there's still a lot of those bigger bluefin there that just, you know, the guys are targeting with flying fish and also fishing for at night. The long range boats are all up there, and any of the boats doing multi-day trips are getting on that action up there. That's from basically from the west end of Cat, the west end of Clemente, and out to Nick in that general zone out there. There's fish scattered all over the place, and they're mostly big ones. So if you want to go fly your kite or drag your daisy chain around, spread a barb, just go do it out there. Below the island and inside Clemente is more of that Dorado. So basically you can go from the channel in between Cat and the mainland all the way down to the Mexican border along the beach, and there's a chance of finding Dorado out there. Probably all the way out to the 43 and the Clemente Ridge as well. Kind of a big area, but you know, there's fish all over the place. Get out there, see what's happening, you know. There's going to be a lot of boats out there this weekend, so check out what those boats are doing. You don't have to drive right up to them, glass them. If you've got stabilized binoculars, see how they're fishing, what they're catching. If they got bent rods. If you see a boat with bent rods, don't just run right up to them. Maybe look around the area and see if you can find something for yourself. You got a better chance to catch them that way and not getting frustrated. Heading down to San Diego, I mean, the half-day boat down there had Dorado the other day, but the fishing down there has improved greatly. A couple different areas. At the Coronados, I was on Let's Talk Hookup last weekend, and I was talking to Pete Gray, and he was down there on his boat on Friday, I think, and they anchored up down there and chummed, and they had, you know, 2 to 3 fish going at the time. Really good fishing. He said some of the best he's seen at the islands in a while. Nice grade of fish. A few of the sport boats have been making trips down there when they have charters that don't want to go offshore, and they've been doing well too. Yeah, if you're gonna go down there, just do your normal stuff. You know, drive around the island looking for birds, looking for signs of life. If you're a bait fisherman, maybe throw some chum. If not, throw a surface iron around when you see signs of activity and see what happens. If it gets good or it's productive, go ahead and try to put your anchor down and see if you get that bite to develop like Pete did. The offshore fishing in San Diego has gotten a lot better as well. They were seeing a lot of tuna for a long time, and they're starting to bite now. I guess the Aztec was on a 2.5 day trip and had limits of yellowfin 210, I think. That's the biggest score of yellowfin I've heard. And they got some Dorado and yellowtail and bluefin as well. I know the San Diego and the Liberty and the Grande, those boats, they've been doing pretty well. Actually getting tuna bites now, so they're actually catching tuna. It's a mix of nice sized yellowfin and a smaller grade of bluefin. So if you go out there and you want to catch yellowfin, you might want to bring some bait along. They're not always up foaming like bluefin are, but if you can find bluefin and yellowfin up feeding together, they'll both usually bite. So I talked to my friend Corey Sandin, who left the calico bass alone in San Diego for a while and actually went offshore. He found some Dorado, caught those, and then ran into some really large bluefin outside of the Coronados, you know, that 100-pound plus stuff. And he still told me he was lucky enough not to hook one. And after seeing that, he decided to go back and look for stuff closer to home that may not be as big. But you got shots of big ones down there too. I mean, there's shots of school of big bluefin popping up just about anywhere. Dorado, yellowtail, yellowfin now as well. Constantly seeing videos of guys on sport boats hooking marlin in the same zone they're fishing for these Dorado. These smaller Dorados, you know, there's fish down to like 3 or 4 pounds. Those marlin will chase those around and eat them all day. So if you want to catch a marlin, you may want to go down to that Dorado zone and troll some jigs around and see what happens. Guys are seeing swordfish out here as well. It's just a really good time of year to be fishing. We're in a favorable lunar cycle here. We should have another week or two before the next full moon. I think that's in 2 weeks, messes things up again. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening, and good weather, so get out there this weekend and go fishing.